The request arrives late. Not improper, never that, but unexpected all the same. A page appears at her chamber door, just as she is finishing the final fastening of her gown, his eyes fixed carefully on the stone floor as he delivers the Duke's message. He requires her presence in the West Wing. Immediately, there is a pause, just long enough to matter, before the addendum. It concerns the envoy. He apologizes for the hour. She dismisses the boy with a nod and remains where she is, one hand resting at her waist, the other braced against the dressing table. Immediately, that word changes the shape of everything. The gown she wears is formal, too formal for a private summons. Dark fabric, stiff bodice, corset lace tight beneath. She had dressed for an audience, not a conversation behind closed doors. Undoing it would take time. Keeping it on will make the walk uncomfortable. She hesitates only a moment before choosing the second inconvenience. The corridors are quieter at this hour. Torches burn lower, shadows stretching long against stone walls worn smooth by centuries of passing hands. She moves quickly, skirts gathered just enough to clear her steps, posture straight despite the pull of the corset constricting her breath. The West Wing is warm. She feels it as soon as she passes through the arched doorway. Heat lingering from the bath chambers beyond, scented faintly with steam and herds. The Duke's solar lies just past them, its door ajar, light spilling out into the corridor. She slows. There's something about the combination, the late hour, the warmth, the informality of an open door, that unsettles her more than secrecy would have. She steps inside. The Duke stands near the hearth, sleeves rolled, coat discarded over the back of a chair. He is not seated. He is not waiting in the manner of a man prepared to dismiss her quickly. He turns when he hears her. "You came quickly," he says. "You asked immediately." "Yes." And then, after a beat, "Thank you." The courtesy is not misplaced, but it is notable. "You said it concerned the envoy," she replies. "It does, but not urgently." Her brow tightens. "Then why?" He stops her with a raised hand, palm open, gesture measured. "Because I realized," he says, "that if I waited until morning, you would arrive already armored." The word lands heavier than he seems to intend. "I'm always prepared," she says coolly. "I know," he replies. That is the problem. She studies him for a moment, the firelight catching in his hair, the lines of his expression softened by the warmth of the room. He does not look hurried. He does not look indulgent. He looks resolved. "This is inappropriate," she says. "Yes," he agrees immediately. "And you're saying that like you're aware of it." "I am." "Then why continue?" "Because stopping would be dishonest." She exhales slowly. "You're being deliberately vague." "I'm being careful." Her corset tightens as she breathes in, a reminder of her body's limits, of the heat pressing against layers of fabric meant for cooler halls. "You're uncomfortable," he observes. "I'm Fina." "You're flushed." "It's warm." "Yes," he agrees. "It is." The fire crackles softly, punctuating the silence that follows. "You should sit," he says. "I would prefer not to." "Because you plan to leave quickly." "Yes. And because if you sit," he continues, "you'll stay longer than you intend." She hesitates. "That's an assumption." "No," he says. "That's experience." She does not sit. Instead, she crosses the room and stands near the table, setting her hands flat against its edge to ground herself. "This cannot take long," she says. "It won't," he replies. He moves then, not toward her directly, but closer all the same, stopping just within her awareness. The heat of him joins the heat of the room, subtle but unmistakable. "You're wearing formal stays," he says quietly. Her spine stiffens. "That is not your concern." "It is," he replies, "if you cannot breathe properly." "I can breathe." "You're breathing shallowly." She hates that he notices. "This is absurd," she says. "If you wanted to discuss the envoy, you could have done so in the morning." "Yes," he agrees. "But then you would have been laced even tighter." The implication settles. "You're suggesting," she says slowly, "that this is about my clothing." "I'm suggesting," he replies, "that you are enduring discomfort out of habit. And you think that gives you license to comment." "I think," he says carefully, that it gives me reason to intervene. Her pulse quickens, not with fear, but with something sharper. Intervene how? She asks. He does not answer immediately. Instead, he steps to the side, opening the space between them rather than closing it, and gestures toward the chair beside the hearth. Sit, he says again. Please. The word is deliberate. She studies him, weighing the room, the hour, the lack of witnesses. This does not give you authority over me, she says. No, he agrees. It gives me concern. She exhales, then lowers herself into the chair despite herself, the corset biting sharply as she bends. She suppresses a wince. He notices anyway. You're in pain, he says. It's nothing. It's unnecessary. She looks up at him sharply. Do not presume. I'm not. He interrupts gently. I'm observing. He steps closer, stopping a respectful distance away. You've been standing all day, he says. Negotiating, deflecting, managing men who underestimate you because they can. She stiffens. You do not need to defend yourself here, he continues. Not with me. That is easy to say from your position. Yes, he agrees, which is why I'm offering something different. She narrows her eyes. What exactly? He meets her gaze steadily. Relief, he says. The word is quiet. Waited. That's not appropriate, she says. No, he agrees. But neither is you fainting in a corridor because you refused to loosen a lace. Her breath catches, just a fraction. You're assuming too much, she says. I'm assuming, he replies, that you won't ask for help unless it's offered plainly. The fire pops softly. She shifts in the chair, acutely aware of how tight the corset feels now that he has named it. You're asking me to undress, she says flatly. I'm asking you, he replies, to let me loosen one thing. The distinction matters. No, she says immediately. Yes, he replies calmly. You are. Her eyes flash. Excuse me. You came here, he says. You stayed. You sat. And you haven't stood up again. She opens her mouth to argue, then realizes she has no rebuttal. You're very confident, she says instead. I'm very attentive, he corrects. The room feels suddenly smaller, the warmth pressing closer. This is crossing a line, she says. Yes. And you're not pretending it isn't. No. She studies his face for any sign of impatience. There is none. If I say stop, she says, you will. Immediately. And if I say no, I will step back. The promise steadies her more than it should. She swallows. She begins, then stops. He waits. Just the top laces, she says finally. Nothing else. Yes, he replies. And you do not touch my skin. Yes. And when I say stop, you stop. Yes. The agreement settles between them, fragile and precise. He steps behind her slowly, deliberately, giving her time to reconsider. She does not. She feels his presence before his hands move, the warmth, the careful distance. Hold still, he murmurs. The words send an unexpected shiver down her spine. His fingers find the laces at the back of her gown, working through the fabric to the corset beneath. He does not rush. He does not tug. The first lace loosens. Her breath escapes her before she can stop it. A soft gasp. He stills instantly. You're all right, he says quietly. Yes, she replies, though her pulse is racing. You didn't expect that. No, and you didn't tell me to stop. No, he resumes, loosening another lace, then another, the pressure easing fraction by fraction. Her shoulders lower without her meaning them to. The relief is immediate. I didn't realize, she murmurs. That's the problem, he replies softly. You're used to enduring. Another lace loosens. Her corset is already half undone, and the awareness of his hands, controlled, precise, entirely focused, changes the room in a way she cannot undo. This is dangerous, she whispers. Yes, he agrees. And you're still continuing. Yes. The fire burns low, and as she sits there, breathing more freely than she is all day, she realizes with sudden clarity, this was never about comfort alone, and whatever follows will not be easily relaced. The relief arrives in stages. It begins in her lungs, with a shallow tightness eases into something fuller, deeper. Then her shoulders, which she had not realized were drawn so high, lower fraction by fraction as the pressure releases. The room feels larger with every careful movement of his hands. It is not rush. That, more than the intimacy of the act itself, unsettles her. Another lace loosens. Then another. The corset yields slowly, reluctantly, as though it has been holding more than fabric in place. "You can breathe," he murmurs. "Yes," she replies, surprised to find the word steady. "And you're not bracing anymore." She hadn't noticed that either. Her hands, which had been gripping the arms of the chair, now rest open against the carved wood. Her back straightens, not rigid, but supported by something other than endurance. "You're very quiet," he observes. "I'm thinking," she says. "About what?" "About how quickly discomfort becomes normal when you expect it." He pauses, fingers still against the laces but no longer moving. "That shouldn't be normal," he says. "No," she agrees. "But it is." He resumes, loosening the stays, slower now, as if each motion carries weight beyond its function. "You didn't ask for this," she continues quietly. "No, but you offered it." "Yes." "And I accepted." "Yes." The acknowledgement settles into the space between them, steady and undeniable. Another lace loosens. The corset gives further, no longer constricting but still present. A reminder rather than a restraint. "You said only the top laces," he says. "Yes." "And we've reached them." "Yes." He stops. The restraint is immediate, unmistakable. His hands do not linger. They withdraw just enough to mark the boundary. She exhales slowly. "Thank you," she says, then pauses, surprised by herself. For stopping. He inclines his head slightly. "I told you I would." The fire crackles softly, the sound grounding. For a moment, neither of them moves. Then she shifts in the chair, testing the new ease of movement, the way her breath fills her chest without resistance. "I didn't realize how much I've been holding myself," she admits. "Most people don't," he replies. "Until someone notices." She glances over her shoulder, catching his reflection in the polished metal of the hearth screen. His expression is composed, attentive, not triumphant, not indulgent. "You're very careful," she says. "I don't confuse permission with entitlement," he replies. The distinction matters more than she expects. She turns slightly in the chair, enough to see him directly. He steps back a pace, restoring the distance without being asked. "You could have taken more," she says. "Yes, but you didn't." "No, and you won't." "No." The certainty steadies her again. "This changes things," she says. "Yes, and you're not pretending it doesn't." "No." She studies him for a long moment, then nods. "I should stand," she says. "Yes, but I don't want to rush." "No." She rises slowly, testing her balance, the unfamiliar freedom of movement making her feel lighter, less guarded. She straightens, smoothing her skirts with deliberate care. "You're breathing differently," he observes. "Yes, and you look less armored." She considers that, then lets out a quiet breath that is almost a laugh. "That was your intention." "Yes, but not the only one." "No." The honesty hangs between them. "You didn't summon me here just for the envoy," she says. "No, but you didn't summon me just for this either." "No. So what was it?" He meets her gaze evenly. "To acknowledge something we've both been circling." Her pulse quickens, not sharply, not fearfully, but with recognition. "And what is that?" she asks. "That you don't have to endure everything alone," he says, "and that I'm willing to be someone who notices when you are." The words settle heavily, not as a declaration, but as an offering. "That's dangerous," she says softly. "Yes, and you're offering it anyway." "Yes." She looked away briefly, then back again. "This can't become something hidden," she says. "No, and it can't be something rushed." "No, and it can't exist only in moments like this." "No." He nods. Then we're aligned. The fire burns lower, the room warmer now in a way that has nothing to do with heat. "You should relace before you leave," he says gently. "Not fully, but enough." "Yes." "And I will step away." "Yes." He does, turning his back deliberately, crossing to the window, giving her space without fanfare. She watches him for a moment, then reaches behind herself, fingers finding the loosened laces. She tightens them just enough to hold, not to bind. The act feels different now, chosen rather than imposed. When she finishes, she clears her throat softly. He could turn around. He does. "You look more comfortable," he says. "I am. Good." She gathers her composure, the familiar steadiness returning, not as armor, but as choice. "I should go," she says. "Yes. And you won't follow." "No. And this won't be spoken of casually." "No. But it won't be denied either." "No." She nods, satisfied. As she reaches the door, she pauses. "You said, 'Hold still,'" she says quietly. "Yes. And I did. Yes. And you didn't use that stillness against me." "No." The door opens softly. "Good," she says. "Because I won't forget that." She steps into the corridor, the cooler air brushing her face, the stone walls steady and familiar. She walks away without looking back, posture composed, breath even. Behind her, the fire crackles. He remains where he is, aware of the shift that has occurred. Not dramatic, not irreversible, but real. Later that night, as the keep settles and the last torches are dimmed, the consequence begins to ripple outward, not in whispers, not in scandal, but in awareness. She sleeps more easily than she has in weeks. And when morning comes, she dresses with intention rather than defense, knowing that what has been loosened cannot be fully retied, because the corset was only half undone, and what followed will require daylight to decide. Morning arrives without apology. Light filters through the high windows of her chamber in pale bands, catching on the edges of furniture, the carved details she has passed without noticing for years. She wakes earlier than usual, not startled, not restless, simply aware. Her breathing is easier. That is the first thing she notices. The corset lies folded over the back of the chair where she left it the night before, loosened and retied just enough to be worn again. It looks the same as it always has, and yet she knows, with an odd certainty, that it will never feel quite the same. She dresses slowly, not because she hesitates, but because she chooses. The gown she selects is appropriate for counsel, tailored and dignified, but she laces the stays with intention rather than habit. She stops before they bite. She leaves room for breath. When she stands, she feels steadier, not guarded, not braced, but present. That steadiness carries her through the corridors as the keep wakes. Servants move with purpose, voices low and efficient. Guards exchange nods as she passes. Nothing appears changed. Everything has. The council chamber fills as it always does. Papers shuffle. Chairs scrape softly across stone. She takes her place at the table, posture composed, attention sharp. The Duke enters moments later. There's no drama to it. No hush beyond the one that follows him naturally. No shift in his expression. He takes a seat, nods once to the assembled council, and the meeting begins. If anyone expects her to falter, to be distracted, they will be disappointed. She speaks when needed. She listens when others speak. When debate sharpens, her voice cuts cleanly through it. Not raised, not forceful, simply precise. He watches her, not openly, not possessively, but with attention that does not waver. Others notice. They always do. By the time the council adjourns, the air feels subtly altered. Not tense, not scandalized, but attentive. People linger longer than usual. Conversations taper off more slowly. As the last advisors begin to leave, the Duke speaks. Remain. The word is calm, measured. She does. The doors close. Footsteps fade. Daylight fills the chamber, leaving nowhere for ambiguity to hide. You slept, he says. Yes, and you're not wearing yourself like armor today. She considers the observation, then inclines her head slightly. Neither are you. A pause settles. What we did last night, she says carefully, cannot remain isolated. No, he agrees. And it cannot become rumor before it becomes intention. No, she exhales slowly. Then we should speak plainly. Yes. She meets his gaze. I do not regret it, nor do I, and I do not want it to exist only in private rooms, handled carefully and forgotten. It won't, but I also don't want spectacle. You won't have that. The balance of his answers steadies her. What I want, she continues, is clarity. Yes, and the freedom to step away if this becomes something I cannot stand within. He does not hesitate. Agreed. The immediacy of the response matters. You did not overstep, she says. You did not take. No, and you did not pretend restraint was something owed to you. No, that matters, she repeats. He inclines his head slightly. It was meant to. They stand in the open chamber, the weight of daylight anchoring them in reality rather than possibility. This will change how we move, she says. Yes, and how we're seen. Yes, and you will not place me behind you. No, she nods once. Then we're aligned. The alignment is not dramatic. It is precise. Later, as the day unfolds, the keep adjusts. They walk the outer courtyard together. Not alone, not entwined, but unmistakably aligned. When he stops to speak with a visiting lord, she remains beside him. When she offers insight on a matter of trade, he listens without interruption. Eyes follow them. Whispers begin, then die. Nothing is denied. Nothing is exaggerated. By evening, the new shape of things is settled into place. She returns to her chamber briefly, exchanging her formal gown for something simpler, more suited to the hour. When she steps back into the corridors, the air feels cooler, calmer. She finds him in the west wing again, but not in the solar. He stands near the open doorway of the bath chambers, sleeves rolled, the scent of steam and herbs lingering in the air. He turns when he hears her steps. You came, he says. Yes, and not because you were summoned. No. She glances past him at the quiet chamber beyond, then back at his face. This is not an invitation, she says. No, and it's not a repetition. No, but it is an acknowledgement. Yes. She steps closer, not into him, not away, occupying the space deliberately. You said, hold still, she says quietly. Yes, and I trusted you. Yes, and you proved that trust was not misplaced. Yes, the truth settles between them, complete. This won't be easy, she says. No, and it won't always be comfortable. No, but it will be chosen. Yes. She studies him for a long moment, then nods. Good. He does not reach for her. Neither does she. The restraint now feels different. Not tense, not provisional, but settled. They walk together down the corridor, not speaking, not needing to. When they part at the turn toward her chambers, he inclines his head slightly. She returns the gesture. Later, alone, she removes her gown and loosens the corset again. This time without ceremony, without pain. She hangs it carefully, not discarded, not rejected. It will be worn again, but not in the same way. As she prepares for rest, one thought rises above the rest. Not as doubt, not as fear, but as understanding. He did not undo her. He noticed her, and in doing so, he changed how she chose to hold herself in the world. The next morning, when she dresses, she does so without hesitation. The corset is laced, not tight, not loose, just enough to support rather than constrain. She breathes, and that, she knows now, is the difference. Because the corset was only half undone, but what followed was fully chosen. And that choice, made deliberately in daylight, will shape everything that comes next.